Okay, today on the workbench we have this 1960s toy called Lucky Crane. Now it's a battery operated toy and it has 6 different functions, and it's controlled by these 3 buttons and then this lever on the side where the center is off. This basically turns the motor on and off. When it goes up or right, it's talking about lifting the crane up or right. Well, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. This is an on-off switch. When it's in this position, the motor runs in one direction. When it's in this position, the motor runs in the opposite direction. That way you can get 2 controls off each of the 3 buttons. So you can control the crane. The crane is inside here. And this little part of the crane is a magnet. So whatever toys came with this thing to play with must have been magnetic or had some steel on them. The crane turns left and right, the boom goes up and down, and this magnet gripper goes up and down. Now on the bottom is where you have your 2 D-cell batteries. But what's interesting about this is both the D-cell batteries are wired in parallel. So they're running the motor inside here on 1.5 volts, not 3. And I think they did that because back then carbon batteries didn't last very long. And since this is a toy that you actually play with, you work with, you don't just turn it on and watch it, because it doesn't do anything if you turn it on and watch it. They figured it's going to have a longer run time, and if it's going to have a long run time, they need to get more life out of the batteries. 2 D cells in parallel is going to last a lot longer than 2 D cells in series and running it on 3 volts. So here's the motor running in one direction. This is button A. So you can see it turns the crane to the right. Now if I run the motor in the other direction and push button A, it will turn the crane in the other direction, if that's showing up. So I need this down so you can see better what's going on in there. There we go. Now I'm going to push button B. That raises the boom. But if you wanted the boom to go down, then you'd move the switch on the side. And then you can lower the boom. And button C should raise the magnet. It did, the gripper. Or if you run the motor in the other direction, you should lower the magnet and make it stick to the table. So those are all the functions that you get with this thing. There's quite a bit. If this was full of some sort of toys with some tin on them or something, you could pick them up and you'd bring them over to here and bring them down the slot where you could grab them. There isn't any real way that that permanent magnet's going to just release the toy. You'd probably have to grab it to get it released. I'm going to show you a few pictures of the insides, just in case you find that interesting. So this is with the bottom off, where the very bottom where I showed you the 2 D cells. These come off the 3 buttons that you saw on the front. Here is the motor, and this is the switch that feeds the motor either positive or negative to reverse it, so it runs one direction or the other, or center is off. The green wire is new. I've added that as a ground wire because you can't really afford to lose any power at all when you only have 1.5 volts to start with. Here's a close-up of the motor itself. It's a fairly decent motor. All the gears are metal, so it was actually meant to run for a while. This is the switch. I was hoping to show the little wiper, but the switch was in such a position you can't see it. On the other side of this shaft and this spring, there's actually a wiper coming off this fiber board that rubs on this metal, and that gives the negative to this switch. And the positive is this yellow wire. It gets it from the top, so depending on how the switch is turned, you get positive or negative going to the motor, so we can reverse direction. Here's the battery box from the inside of the toy. Now normally the toy had this yellow wire which went to the switch, and then it had a red wire from that positive to the positive of the other battery. There was no green wire originally. They simply had the metal terminal on the negative side of the two batteries touching this painted metal here, and this metal of course is held to this piece of metal with some bent tabs, and this piece of metal is held to the main body of the toy with some bent tabs, and into here, and then the switch is held to here with some bent tabs. So you can see there's lots of places where you could lose some voltage, and like I say, if you only have 1.5 to begin with in the first place. So that's why I ended up bringing a green ground wire right to the switch, right from the battery box, and got the thing to run, got the thing to work. And so, and there we have it. Let's see, let's pull back out. Let's turn it back on. And lift that up in case it doesn't show up real well. Let's lift the boom up. Here, let's just go ahead and open the door. So you can lift the boom up in there, and you can turn it. Let's turn it the other way. So button A turns the crane. Button B raise and lower the boom, and button C controls the gripper. The switch on the side gives you your other choices. And there you have it. Center is off. Here's your Lucky Crane toy. A toy actually meant to be played with instead of just turned on and looked at.